If you're getting pretty serious into woodworking and you're considering spending almost $4,000 on a planer, I'll give you my thoughts on whether or not this was a good buy. So like you, I struggled for a while with the small little lunchbox size planer, and they did pretty well. But eventually, as someone with the sawmill, I have some pretty big pieces of wood that eventually will need to be planed. And the little lunchbox deal just wasn't quite getting it. So eventually that conversation had to come up with my wife about forking out some money for something bigger and better. And you can imagine how that conversation went. How much does it cost? Uh, what do you mean? Oh, like how much does it cost? Um, a lot. To start off, I bought a 20-inch spiral cutter head planer, not to be confused with helical because people will castigate you for that, but it is the spiral head. To give you an idea of the quality of the finish that comes out, I'm going to take this rough piece of maple here, which is kind of hard to tell. It was circle sawn. We'll run that through the planer real quick. So if you've seen my other review where I review the 12-inch wind planer, I kind of mistake it for a helical head planer, even though it's spiral. And I'll say this, the finish of the spiral heads is astronomically better than a straight knife finish. Whether or not it is as good or it lacks in comparing to a helical head, I can't say, but I can only assume that it would be incrementally better because this is a really nice finish, as you'll soon see. So as you can see, there's a couple of lines in there, and I guarantee you I've run hundreds, if not thousands of board feet through without rotating the cutters, so I'm not shocked here. So as you saw, two things I do like about this. Number one, the machine itself is not loud at all. The dust collector over there is much louder than the machine itself when it operates, so that's very cool. Number two, the machine is very powerful. I have stuffed a 20-inch slab of pecan through here, and it takes it no problem. It is 220 volt, and I believe I have this on a 15 amp circuit, and I could be wrong, but it has never tripped the breaker whatsoever. So plenty of power, not a lot of noise. Both are big wins in my book. My only complaint so far is dust collection. This hood is not really held down very well, and that's only because this bolt here is stripped out already. So what I'll probably need to do at some point is probably drill it out and tap it with a bigger hole and put a bigger bolt in there. But I really think more thought could have been given to this right here. Even if I do put this bigger bolt in here, I'll still probably need to get some AC duct tape and just seal that off. And I say all that because when you're running a full width piece of material through here, it creates so much debris, shavings, dust, whatever you want to call it. It really does overwhelm the system. So that brings me to my second point here. If you're going to upgrade to the bigger machine, you've got to have a dust collection system. And I'm not showing you this as an example of what to do. This is not enough. This is a Harbor Freight dust collector that I've converted to a 2-stage, and it just barely does the job. I've actually considered, instead of just upgrading this, buying a separate system just to handle that. So keep that in mind. Whenever you're ready to upgrade your equipment, you're gonna need to upgrade this as well. So overall, yes, it was a large purchase. I was able to fortunately sell a bunch of wood that I've milled and flattened to pay for the purchase. So, you know, ultimately it wasn't really that big of a drain on the family bank account. The wood hobby kind of supports itself. And for me, as somebody who does have a sawmill and does sell lumber, you know, I've got these big 15-inch pieces of pecan here that I can flatten on the flattening table on one side, flip it over, and then just stuff it through the planer, and I can have this piece flattened in probably 5 minutes. So for me, the large machine is very efficient in that regard, and it works for me. People who are just doing little onesie-twosie cutting boards, probably not the machine for you, but if you have larger pieces that are constantly needing to be flattened or thickness planed or whatever, I have zero regrets, and I really couldn't say anything bad about it other than the dust collection, but that's to be expected, I guess. So overall, 2 thumbs up. I'd buy it again. Lastly, I'll leave you with a video of how I flatten my slabs. So this is my homemade table, and these two pecan slabs here were pretty twisted. There's probably an inch of twist in them, so I get them pretty close on the flattening table, close enough that they'll run flat through the planer, and then I'll run them through on both sides here to get all the flattening marks out. And so as you'll see here in a second, it comes out with a pretty nice finished product.